you're in such a safe place here.
Yeah.
This is something that all of us here, it has touched all of us sitting at this table, and we all understand those feelings that you've experienced. I understand those feelings that you experienced. I can remember being overwhelmed by the feeling that everyone would just be better off without me, that I was a rubbish mother and I wasn't doing this very well and I wasn't coping. I eventually got through it actually through a friend of mine, it was a colleague, sitting me down and going, "You're not quite right, and I think you need to get some help." And what's so interesting is that's pretty much exactly what happened to you.
Yeah, yeah. It's do you know, it's a bit strange being here, actually, because obviously, you know, I'm used to being on camera and, you know, talking about something amazing and going on and just being all fun, and it's quite hard being here. I'm in a position where I can help other people, and this is a great platform. You know, there'll be a lot of women sitting at home now watching this show, because it's fabulous anyway, but that are going through a similar thing or have been through a similar thing and perhaps haven't had it recognised, and I just want to touch out to those people. And I can't stress enough how important it is they get help.
Well, you had a really difficult pregnancy, didn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, there were medical sort of complications from the off, weren't there?
Well, I mean, even from the beginning, we were told that we couldn't have children. Ben was in remission for bowel cancer. So you were going through your own thing. And so even when we got together, you know, we started our journey together, not knowing that we could have children at all. So when we did find out I was pregnant, you know, we were on edge all the time.
Yeah.
You know, we couldn't properly celebrate being pregnant.
You had a clot or something?
Yeah, just subchorionic hematoma, which is like a blood clot, and it forms behind the baby, but it can be very dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, if it was to burst at any time, then, you know, we could lose the
Do you
baby.
think that contributed to your postnatal depression?
Do you know what?
Often they say it's hormonal and it's involuntary, which I can relate to, but actually, circumstantially, do you think that had a...
I think there are lots of things that could have certainly added to, you know, being triggers. But I really do believe it can happen to anyone. I don't think it matters on circumstances. I think if you're going to get it, you're going to get it. And I think that's what's really important that people are aware of, that it can happen to anyone.
Did you feel, though, that because you knew that your baby was in danger when you were pregnant, did you almost hold off the feelings in case something went wrong?
I didn't, actually. It was more Ben, because, I mean, you'll know of Ben's history that you lost children before.
Yeah, there's a kind of lot of risk with me anyway. A history of a lot of problems on that front and sadness. So I was nervous anyway, and then when this happened, became a high risk. There'd been a lot of bleeds and stuff. It became what was supposed to be a really happy and lovely time was a very stressful time. We were constantly in and out having scans because we were so worried, and
Every week at one point, wasn't it?
So many times we thought. So at a time when you would probably be getting the cot and getting the room ready, we weren't. And I know Kirsty wanted to start, and I said, "Darling, we can't yet." I said,
any excuse.
We can't yet. We can't yet until we get to past that stage where it's safe and we really feel safe. I can't let us go through that and then for it all to fall apart.
But then I guess what you would expect then is after all of that tension, when baby comes, I know it's a difficult labour, but then there would be a feeling of elation.
Exactly. And there was initially. I mean, when we first had Freja, I mean, it was just... Firstly, it was a relief. I think it's a relief for anyone, whether you've gone through a difficult pregnancy or not.
Yeah.
You know, you count all the fingers and toes and you're like, OK, they're all there. She can see everything's healthy, her heart's healthy, she's breathing normally, you know, all the normal stuff. And, you know, for 2-3 days, it was that. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And I was, you know, I was excited. But it was after that, it was the transition from what I believe was the baby blues, which is the norm, into what was something a lot darker. And I think that's where the grey area is. And I think that's for most women, is at what point is, you know, that normality.
So when you say darker, I mean, how was it?
Very dark, as in...
OK, no, don't.
Maybe Ben, maybe
No.
Ben.
No, dark moments, as in... Because it's important... You came already holding you, didn't it? I think it was the moment when I was breastfeeding and... I mean, we were living in a hotel room anyway. This is another story, because Ben had to go up to Liverpool to film Hollyoaks. So we were living in a hotel for a while, 3 days after we'd had Freja. So I didn't have, you know, my comforts, my home comforts around me and my friends and family. So it was different anyway. But I was sitting breastfeeding and I remember looking at her And even when you were just, you know, introducing our story, I was thinking, gosh, it sounds so ridiculous. And even now, it sounds so embarrassing, the idea of being scared of your baby. But in the reality, you know, I'm sure any mother out there, and you imagine looking down at your baby and seeing what was like the devil, you know, she had this little glint in her eye that she was looking right through, and I was scared of her. And I knew I had to feed her because that was giving her life and I should be enjoying it. But I remember I was feeding her like this, and sometimes I'd even pull, like, the muslin cloth or something slightly over so I didn't have to have face-to-face with her, which is... I mean, that's horrendous. That's horrendous.
What a lot of the stuff that was going on, Kirsty was a lot of these feelings, these things going through her head. She was keeping to herself at the time. So I was trying to balance 5 days of the week being in this hotel. My storyline was very busy, so I was in the studios throughout the day, trying to get back whenever I could in breaks so that we could be together, trying to build a kind of life in. But it was all, and then the weekends we were travelling back home, and then travelling back on at the end of the weekend to